Balancing equations. Today we're going to talk about balancing equations. Now I have your rules up here for balancing equations. The first rule is to count your atoms. That's going to make more sense when I actually do an equation up here. You're going to actually see it and say, oh, I know what you're talking about now. So just hang tight with that. Write these down. That way when we actually work through them, you'll be able to do it. Second one is to balance metals first. Third rule is to balance your non-metals, minus O's and H's. And then finally we're going to come back and we're going to balance our hydrogens and our oxygens. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to a problem and we're going to work those. Okay, here we have our go-to balancing equation. Beginners, just straight off the floor, how we do this. So I have hydrogen gas plus oxygen gas yields water. Okay, it's a pretty simple equation. Now my first step when I balance equations is to count atoms. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split it in half. I'm going to count what's on the left, I'm going to count what's on the right. So I'm going to start with my H's. The number of H's I have, I'm going to go to the subscript that's behind the number, and that tells me that I have 2 H's. Okay, then I'm going to write my O, and that is also 2. Now in the same order, these won't always be in the same order on this side, but in the same order I'm going to write the same letters I have on this side. So I have H and I have O. My H's on this side I have 2, but my O's I only have 1. So these do not equal each other. So let's figure out how we're going to get them to equal each other. The only way that I can get them to equal each other is by putting in what's called a coefficient. That's the number that comes in front of the compound or the element. If I put it behind, like if I put a 2 here, I completely change the compound. That is bad news. I can't do that. So, that's bad. Don't do that. So we put a 2 here, the coefficient, and I end up with 2H2O. Now what that does though, is it also changes my H's. So I have 2 times 2 changes this number to 4. Notice I crossed that out. That way in case I need to go back, I can go back and I can change that right back to what I need to. 2 times 1 is 2, so I have a 2 and 4. Now I've got to go back to the other side. When I go back to the other side, I can put a 2 in front of the H, so 2 times 2, that gives me 4. So you'll see I have 4 on the H's, 2 on the O's, and we are balanced. This is the proper equation for the creation of water. 2H2 plus O2 yields 2H2O. Let's do another one now. Alright, the problem we're going to work on now is going to be one where we have a metal. We need to see the ones that have metals because that's going to be very beneficial for us to finish our worksheet on balancing equations. So what I have here is I have zinc metal plus HCl yielding zinc chloride plus H2. Now when H2 went by itself, it's a Hofbrinkel, so we have 2 H's on that side. Okay, split it down the middle. Zinc, I have 1 zinc. Hydrogens, I have 1 hydrogen. Chlorines, I have 1. On the other side, same order. I want to go zinc, hydrogen, and chlorine in that order. I have 1 zinc. I have 2 hydrogens, and I have 2 chlorines. Okay, my rules. I want to count my atoms. Done. I want to balance metals. Zinc is 1. Zinc is 1. My metals are balanced. Awesome. Let's go to the next one. I want to balance my metals, or my non-metals that aren't hydrogens or oxygens. Chlorine. So in order to balance chlorine, I'm going to put a 2 in front here, which makes my hydrogen 2, and it makes my chlorine 2. So when we look at our counted atoms, we have 1, 2, 2 on this side, 1, 2, 2 on this side. They are balanced. That is the answer to that particular problem. What we have now is we have a combustion reaction. So I have a fuel, I have oxygen, I made water, I made carbon dioxide. So watch how we go through this one. We're going to do the same process we did before. I'm going to draw the line straight through the middle. Okay, I'm going to write my elements. I have a carbon, I have a hydrogen, I have an oxygen. I have 2 carbons, 5 hydrogens, and 2 oxygens. In the same order I'm going to write on the other side. So C, H, and O. Okay, so even though they didn't appear in this order on this side, I'm going to write them in that order. My C's, I'm going to come up here, I have 1 carbon. My hydrogens, I have 1, 2. And my oxygens, this is where it gets a little confusing. Sometimes you'll see this, they'll be in multiple spots. I have 1, 2, 3. Okay, so when I do my counting atoms, here's the ones I have. I have 2 on this side, 1 on the other side, so they don't match. 5 hydrogens on this side, 2 on this side, they don't match. And 1 oxygen, 3 oxygens, they don't match. So we have to balance everything. Okay, the first one I want to balance is between the metals. I don't have any metals, so I'm going to skip the metals. We're going to go to the non-metals that aren't hydrogen and oxygen. So that's my carbon. So I'm going to come over here. This has 1 carbon. I need 2. So the only place I can put it is in the front. Change the coefficient, which makes this 2. And here's where a lot of people screw up. They take this 2 up here and they change it to this one down here, saying I have 6 oxygens. That's not the case though. It's 2 in reference to this one, so that means I have 4 there, and then here's this other one, which is 5. Okay. When I look at this now, I am still missing hydrogens. Now I have 5 hydrogens over here, I have 2 over here, so I need to get it to a number that is going to match up. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to push it to a number like 10. Now the reason I'm going to push it to a number like 10 is because I have 5 over here and 2 over here. Okay, the lowest common multiple between the two is going to be 10. That's the only way I could get them to match. I can't just bump this one up by 2.5 because that's going to cause some other issues with my oxygen. Now eventually I can show you another trick, and we might even get it on this problem. We're going to find out. So what I do is I multiply this by 5, which gives me 10 hydrogens, and it gives me 5 plus 4, so now I have 9 oxygens. Okay, so we see that it's kind of a cool little jump there. Now, problems that we'll have with this is now we have to go back to the other side, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. When you're balancing equations, you're going to work back and forth. So I have 2 carbons, 5 hydrogens, 10 hydrogens, so we need to get this to be 10. So I put a 2 there, changed it to 4 on the carbons. I want to do each step first, and then it's going to be 10 hydrogens. Okay. So I have messed with the carbons, so let's go back in our rules. When we're going through our rules, we always want to go back to the top of the rules and before we go to the bottom, because if we have something change, we want to do it first. So my carbon changed, so let's go over here and change my carbon. So this should now be a 4, which changes my oxygens from 4 to 8 plus 5. This is 13. It's quite a bit of work there. Okay, it's not going to be some of the worst problems you're going to see, but it is a pretty tough one. Now, I have 13 oxygens. I have 2 oxygens over here. I need to get an oxygen that is 2 to equal 13. So that's the only thing that's changed. Now you'll notice oxygen is all by itself. The numbers in front have to be whole numbers. They have to be whole numbers. 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. But here's a trick that can help you and get some problems done a lot quicker. If there is one number that I could put that's going to equal 13 for my 2, what's the one number I can multiply by? That's going to be 6.5. So 6.5 times 2 equals 13. Okay, that's going to be really beneficial. But then you say, hey, wait a second, Mr. Brewer. That number has to be a whole number. Now, how am I going to get this to be a whole number? I multiply everything times 2. So, if I take 2 times 2, that number becomes 4. 2 times 6.5, that number becomes 13. 2 times 5, that becomes 10. And then 2 times 4, this number becomes 8. So, when I look at these, I actually put them down. My actual answer is going to be 4C2H5 plus 13O2 plus 10H2O plus 8CO2. Okay, fairly high. We worked it pretty good on that one, but that is a problem you're definitely going to want to see. All right, applied chemistry, Friday morning. You're going to want to come in. I'll have a worksheet available for you. Pick up the worksheet. The worksheet is going to be something that you can work on over the weekend. If you come in Monday morning before school, you'll have about a 10 or 15 problem quiz. If you want to take that quiz, if you get 100% on the quiz, you can show me you know how to balance equations. You will not have to do the entire week's worth of balancing equations. So come in Monday morning, show me you can balance an equation, and we're going to be good to go. So remember, Monday morning before school, 10 to 15 problems. It'll probably take you about 20 minutes. But in that 20 minutes, if you get 100%, your whole week during my class is going to be free. All right, chemistry. This stuff is all about the beast. We are here. If you want to stop in Friday morning, you are more than welcome to come in, pick up the beast. I will have it available for you so you can work on it over the weekend. Now, it seems really, really bad, really, really gnarly. In fact, here's a copy of it right here. I've got it in my hands. There are 111 problems. If you break it up, you end up having to do about 20 per day. Some of them are really easy. They'll literally take 10 seconds to get done. You'll be done fast. Some of them are going to take a little bit more time, but you kind of have to stay on pace. Now, here's another option. If you want to work some of these problems out over the weekend, come in Monday morning before school. You'll probably need about 20-25 minutes. I will have a quiz of probably 10 or 15 balancing equations. Some of them are really easy, some of them are fairly difficult. If you get 100% on them, you do not need to complete the beast unless you really want to. So keep that in mind. Think about those incentives. Don't tell all your friends because they're going to want to know how to get this lovely option. So have a great weekend, and we'll see you later.